Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Way to plan your day. Get the weather information you need from Marshall Thies and Heather Tesh, including your local forecast on the 8th. Tune into Your Weather Today, weekday mornings from 7 till 9 Eastern on the Weather Channel.
A blizzard slows activity in Washington, D.C. to a crawl. Crews are hard at work to open the snowbound streets. Commuters find it difficult to get around in New York City as well. Slush and snow are making many areas hazardous. It's a good time to stay at home.
Absolutely, Vivian. Here in New York City, we have seen the heavy snow come and go, but now we have some sleet and freezing rain. I'll have a live report next on Weather Center.
Good afternoon and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Vivian Brown.
And I'm Bob Stokes. The snowstorm is triggering emergencies along the East Coast. A snow emergency is now in effect for Philadelphia. As of noon, only emergency vehicles are permitted on the city's snow routes. No parking will be allowed. You could be ticketed or towed. A similar emergency was declared for Washington, D.C. earlier today. Joining us now on the phone to update us on the street conditions in Washington, D.C. is Art Lawson, the Deputy Director for the District's Department of Public Works. Good afternoon, Mr. Lawson.
How are you today?
Well, now could you tell us what conditions are like in the district?
Well, it's snowing awfully hard here. We have about 10 inches on the ground right now. It's anticipated that we'll probably get about 2 to 4 more inches before it ends sometime this evening. Conditions are tight. We have about 200 some odd trucks out. There's a lot of slush on the streets, but the major streets are passable. We're asking folks to be extremely careful if they have to go out, but we're asking folks to stay in. That will allow our crews to do their work and clean the streets from curb to curb.
The emergency status, is it still in effect?
The emergency status is in effect. It will probably be in effect through this evening. We will review that situation sometime this evening as to when we may lift the emergency conditions.
Okay, Art Lawson, thank you very much. The Washington, D.C. area's Deputy Director for the Department of Public Works. And now, let's go to Vivian Brown.
Well, thanks, Bob. Anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of snow in the D.C. area from this major winter storm. Our storm history here shows anywhere from central Massachusetts all the way down to South Carolina. We've had the locally heavy snow. The low pressure right now is centered just off the coast of Delaware and pulling in quite a bit of Atlantic moisture. You know, you get the counterclockwise flow around low pressure. The air is very cold already inland, so as that moisture meets up with that cold air, we've had the snow. Even some reports of freezing rain now and again in the New York City area where a winter storm warning is in effect for tonight, also in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. because of the heavy snow we've already seen. Our latest winter weather radar shows the snow now pushing into down east Maine. We've had a little bit of rain push south and east of Boston near the Cape Cod area, but it has started to change over to heavy snow at Logan International, and we've had reports of delays at the airports from Boston all the way down to D.C. and Baltimore. An additional 3 to 6 inches are possible in this area right along the immediate coast, but the inland areas could pick up an additional 6 to 12 inches of snow from this major winter storm. Again, the low pressure is centered just off the coast of New Jersey and Delaware as we speak, and it has some ways to go before all is done. So we have crews stationed in the Northeast. Kristen Dodd, she's still in New York City, and she joins us now with the latest conditions as of this hour in the Big Apple. Good morning, Kristen, or good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon to you, Vivian. And the afternoon has brought some sleet in and around New York City, also some stronger winds at times gusting up to 20 and 25 miles an hour. Now, earlier we did have that heavy snowfall, and this is what's left of it. We've seen the plows out here in the parking lot and out on the roadways. So as folks are venturing out today, they're going to find a lot of snow piled up in a lot of locations. And they have treated many of the roadways and also the sidewalks and parking lots. But with that sleet continuing to come down, it is still freezing, and so it's slick to do any walking in and around New York City. The roads are fairly good right now as the plows have been out and also the salt and sand trucks. But again, with the freezing rain, it could cause some problems, especially the farther we head into the afternoon commute. Now, as far as the airports are concerned, we are stationed right across from LaGuardia, and it has been a deserted LaGuardia all morning long, but just now we're beginning to see a little bit of movement. I was looking at some of the airplanes from here, and I actually saw one of the baggage trucks heading over toward the airplane, and I'm sure folks who are getting on that plane are glad because we have seen a lot of delays, numerous cancellations at all of the airports. So things are slowly getting underway at LaGuardia, JFK, and at Newark. We'll continue to watch it for you. Now also watching it is Colin Marquis, and he is our winter weather analyst. Colin?
Kristen, we are now watching the greatest snowstorm on record in the Raleigh-Durham area, better than 18 inches and still snowing. And that storm is actually affecting areas all the way from the Carolinas well up into central and northern New England at this point. Let's take a big picture look. The classic comma shape to this very intense storm. The head of the comma, we continue to see snow falling across eastern Virginia, eastern North Carolina. We call that the cold conveyor belt. That will only slowly recede to the northeast in time. The tail of the comma, we call that the warm conveyor belt. That will continue to bring waves of precipitation in the short term up into New England. And then we also see this area of dry air in between that is complicating the forecast. Let's get a little bit more detail and take you on a radar tour. First across the Carolinas, Raleigh, again, better than 18 inches and still snowing. And the heart of that comma head still right over the area. This area of snow, and by the way, some of that snow is coming down at the rate of 1 to 2 inches per hour even now. This will only slowly retreat to the northeast over the next several hours, but I think it will stay in parts of northeastern North Carolina well into the mid and perhaps even latter part of the afternoon, so let's say the next 3 or 4 hours. Farther to the north, I-95 corridor from Richmond to Washington continues to see some of the most horrendous travel conditions. Snow, moderate to heavy, coming down 1 to 2 inches per hour. Visibility is very low. North winds gusting above 30 miles per hour. There is no reason to believe that this is going to go anywhere. So I would say over the next 3 to 4 hours in that corridor, we continue to see similar type conditions, and therefore in that time period, we would see another 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 inches of snow in the next few hours. Finally, as we head to the north, dry air coming into the New York City area and points to the northwest. We have a little bit of light freezing rain in the area. Not going to see much, if any, snowfall. In fact, you won't see any snowfall in the New York City area in the next 3 hours. Farther up the coast, up into Boston, metropolitan area and points northwestward, you're seeing the snow. Down across the Cape in southeastern Massachusetts, rain. However, notice the southern boundary of this precipitation shield continues to fly to the north. Probably the next 1 to 2 hours, Boston, you will be in the accumulating snow, and then you will begin to taper off. Once we hit, let's say, 2 o'clock or so and then beyond, the snow will begin to taper off, and once it does so, we'll probably go over to something other than snow, that being sleet or a little bit of freezing rain or freezing drizzle. We'll continue to watch this throughout the remainder of the afternoon, a very important and devastating storm in some areas as far as immediate travel concerns. Now let's get back to the studio now, and Vivian.
Well, thank you very much, Colin. Of course, our winter weather analysis will be here all day, and we will be keeping you updated on the progression of this nor'easter that has brought quite a bit of snow already and is continuing to bring snow, and we're expecting this to be an all-afternoon event, as Colin mentioned. Over the southeast, improving conditions here. The cold conveyor belt, as Colin mentioned, is slowly lifting northward, so we will notice improving conditions gradually in North Carolina. That's what we've seen already in South Carolina after Charleston picked up some 3 inches. Atlanta, this is from the same system that brought the light dusting of snow yesterday. Improving, though, the rest of the southeast. Temperatures right now still below freezing Atlanta, so it's cold even though the snow has ended. 33 in Birmingham, 44 in New Orleans, and 52 currently Houston. More details on the forecast coming up in just a moment. Bob?
Well, looking at the rest of the country, the Midwest is cold and the West is stormy. Let's check it out right now. Both regions beginning with some lake effect snows coming down across northern Indiana and the southwestern part of Michigan. Very cold northerly wind could bring some 3 to 6 inch snows to the northern part of Indiana and some 3 to 6 inch snows to parts of southwestern Michigan. It's almost a due north to south flow. You see that long fetch getting into the areas west of South Bend. Some lighter snows in Detroit and light snow scattered about Indiana, but we could pick up 1 to 2 inches in some areas. Let's take a look at that forecast. Yes, 1 to 2 inches around Indianapolis, higher amounts as you head toward Michigan, and in the areas of Lavender, 6 to 12 inches with that cold Arctic air coming in. So there's that frontal boundary, the cold air coming in behind the low, 20 in Chicago, 18 in Green Bay. You need the coat too in Minneapolis. So there you have the Midwest, snowy and cold, and in the West, numerous traffic accidents in the LA area due to the first big rainstorm in the LA basin. Of course, we've already seen some rain in LA, but this is the first big one, an inch. And the Mount Rose Highway southwest of Reno, where you had the avalanche, that has been reopened. Had to be closed because a car was swamped by snows. It's in a mountainous area, so that's been reopened, but a lot of heavy rainfall occurring in LA. Another 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch could occur in LA with a frontal boundary coming on in. Snows occurring in the Sierra as well as the Cascades and the Wasatch Range. So we're looking at generally rain where temperatures are above freezing in Salt Lake City, but in the Wasatch we could see some 3 to 6 inch snows. So there you have the entire country, the West, the Midwest, and the blizzard in the Northeast. Here's our forecast going forward. That onshore flow continues in the West, and look at the mess in the Northeast. Travel not encouraged. We're looking at freezing rain perhaps developing in Boston with the snow that's already fallen, so that's a dangerous mix with snows getting into the morning commute for the northern part of New England, and in the areas of purple, just think heavy snowfall in the Northeast.
That's right, and travel not recommended in many areas. But if you have to get out and about, we'll detail the traveling conditions coming up for you next on Travel Wise.
Look at you. What a cold. Even your sinuses hurt. You know how Advil gets rid of tough pain fast? Well, Advil Cold and Sinus gets rid of tough sinus pain fast. This is in this, plus a decongestant. That's why they call it Advil Cold and Sinus.